All right. Well, welcome everyone. And we have Linda here today. This is exciting. We
Hi,
also have
everyone.
Will and Ika hanging around for this, I think, provocative conversation we have today on growing up aliens. So, as I said, welcome, Linda, and also gratitude and so much blessings to our viewers, not just today, but in the future as they view and use this information as a springboard. So, because we never give information to you, or these are just our, philosophical, analytical feelings on something that we work through. But again, yours are your own, and whatever resonates with you, enjoy and find your own truths and find your own paths. And we're just here to kind of like open up the door, let's say. So as you said, hello,
Yes.
Linda.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me on.
Grant, it's good good that we have some time to come back.
Yes,
Time.
absolutely.
So today's topic is something I've been meaning to bring up because I've been talking to Ika about it, and it's been kind of for me, and I'm gonna ask you as well. This has been sort of a lifelong trauma, I would guess, for me, because I don't know if it's because I'm a Libra or what, but I've always been overly or nourished, I guess. I'm nourished by beauty
Mm,
in thought, beauty in action, physical beauty, natural beauty, beauty,
yes.
Venus, all that kind of stuff. I've always been fascinated ever since I can remember as a baby. So I don't know, Linda, if that's been something you've ever considered.
I have always found beauty in everything ever
Yeah,
since I can remember. Like just in the littlest details of the day. And even when I was just a little child, I would just find the little
yeah,
things that I found beauty in. And I mean, I grew up in an area that was not very pretty. I mean, naturally beautiful. There was a lot of beautiful nature in the summertime, but in the wintertime, it was very dreary. It was in the Pittsburgh area, like north of Pittsburgh. It was a steel mill area. So everything was covered with soot, lots of pollution when I was a kid. It's not so much like that now, but it was bad then. And it was just not, it was dreary and dull and gray. There were a lot of smokestacks, a lot of steel mills. Soot on the sides of buildings, it was just not what most people conventionally would think of as pretty, but I would still find beauty in the littlest details of things, maybe in the bricks of the house or,
yeah, yeah.
something that I would see. And even the smokestacks, I thought were cloud machines when I was a kid. I thought they were what made clouds.
Yeah.
So I was just, oh, look at the cloud machines, like I was kind of blissfully ignorant and in my own little bliss as a child. So I definitely found beauty, even if even if most people would think it wasn't there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mine was similar because I live in a mill town as well. We live on
Ah,
the edge of it, moving into the country. We live in the agricultural section, but the rest of it was a mill.
nice.
And there was a lot of dysfunctional families in my town. Like there still probably are, but I had like this little, oasis, like you said, so I just wanted to stay home because
Yeah.
where I could, and I would be with the animals and
Hmm.
as I grew up, gardening and all that. So that's nature was the beauty for me. But I
Yes.
understand it as a child, but you would, I felt the repercussions of a lot of alcoholism. We had a lot
Mm,
of that in our town. It is
yeah.
also a mill, an old, mine's an 18th century mill town.
Hmm.
So we had very old factories, but they were quite ornate because they were the 19th century
Yeah.
factories. So, but that's what was there, a lot of the immigrants that came. So you saw the double sides of the beauty of the cultures and how they took care of each other. But then you saw the sectarian violence as well.
Mm,
And you were exposed to the ethnocentric, there was definitely a lot of vileness where certain ethnic groups hated other ethnic groups.
yes.
It was in the town, it's actually, and it's still like that today. It's very despotic and very racist and ethno.
Yes.
Um, so I grew up surrounded by all that turmoil. And of course, the kids who grew up in those alcoholic type families and everything, they were bullies and brutal. So, yeah, I had similar kind of experience that again, it's that is draconian.
Mm,
That's
that,
that's You know, now that we look back on and reflect on it, that was all put in place on purpose for Terrans to pretty much eat themselves alive and to
Yeah.
create a race. I said it's like a race of orcs, basically. The
It
elves
was a
turned
it
into
was
orcs.
like a control mechanism.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was definitely a way to keep people as slaves
Yeah,
in a
absolutely.
slave planet, slave society.
And,
And
and,
that's
and
what it
ugly within themselves, degraded
yes.
themselves, through all this
Yes.
violence and dysfunction and yeah.
The
Um,
only respite, I'm sure for you also was nature, like
nature,
playing in the
always,
woods, being outdoors and yeah, that was it. Yeah.
yeah. And of course my sky friends.
Yeah.
I used to spend a lot of time just on different planes of existence, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
I was that kid who's always like, you know, somewhere else
Yeah.
for a long
I
period of time. Yeah.
I I was I was very quiet, so nobody knew what I was thinking and or I just never talked about it. So I was in my room a lot, be alone.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I can feel himself. I mean, he's behind. He likes to kind of stand behind me and kind of lean around. Um,
Yeah.
so some of the conversations here are from him, what I understand, and you can add something that Will may have mentioned as well. Because again, we're all Pleiadian, even though Will is tall, but we're all Pleiadian. And we say tall, I don't he's tall.
He's not tall, like tall, tall.
He is that's a
Yeah.
so, yeah, hell and tall. So anyway, yeah, I know it. Oh God, it's so funny. They need to
He
change
said
that because it's confusing in English.
it's confusing to humans.
It's confusing. Oh my God. So what Ika had mentioned, because the only reason I got to this was because people always would ask, and I know they ask you as well, why are they, the upstairs people, so beautiful?
Mm,
I'm like, I don't, I don't know. I don't, because your average, I speak for all humans, but I mean generally, when you show a picture of someone from upstairs, like a humanoid, they are very beautiful. And I don't know, right? So I did ask, because he doesn't see himself like that. I don't know have you ever talked to Will about that?
yeah, I think it and what he's said to me is that it's just sort of like a frequency thing.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep, same thing. Yeah.
same thing. That's what he said. Yeah. So what Ika said was, so we're talking about beauty, and we're going to explain
Mhm,
beauty as opposed to the shallow stripped form that happened on Terra. So
mhm,
beauty in its pristine wholeness is negentropy.
mhm,
And
mhm,
what's happened here is, and Nika was saying, so what happens there is, because you understand beauty in its wholeness as a piece of the universe. And he's showing me this because it makes perfect sense. Because like we were saying, when you look at nature, when you look at animals, when you look at the way things work, when you look at the way rivers flowing, when you see the earth from space, when you see other planets, yada yada yada, is beautiful,
mhm. It's
mind blowing,
perfect. It's
perfect,
yes.
and it's deep. And the state of beauty in negentropy, which is the perfect and natural, and therefore, so when we say perfect, it is the therefore natural state of all beings.
Another thing to understand about negentropy is that it's not perfectly symmetrical. It's
Yes,
asymmetrical, but there is a beauty to things that aren't perfectly symmetrical.
right.
So it doesn't have to be like, oh, this is perfect in that sense, but it
No,
is perfect in the fact that it's pure.
correct.
It's pure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Pristine.
even words like perfect, nature
Yeah.
is perfect,
Yes.
but not when we think of maybe, so everything has gotten corrupted and
Yes. There's
corroded.
distortion. There's
Yes.
distortion. Yeah.
So all of these words that we're talking about today, we have them in their pure state, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
we have them in their corroded state. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what was done in the mind control, the psychological operations.
Yes.
Oh, it's like, wow. And the more you play with it, and I will always invite our audience to really start to deep dive on their own and kind of look at all of the psychological weaponry that was unleashed over this planet, and wow, and to
Mm-hmm.
heal from it. And we've all been victims of it. So you need to heal from it.
Mm-hmm.
and like, oh wow, I'm not going to see myself like that, or I thought like this, and we've all been through it. It's not, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
We're still fighting it. But some of the things here, so the concept of beauty in the corrosive state, I had made my I always have notes because, as you know, I don't think linearly, so we want to make sense. So, is there's a shame around it, yet it's seen as a marketable commodity. So the idea of beauty as a sense of it being shamed, but exploited, is almost like it should be ashamed of itself. And because it's shameful in its own nature, that then gives us the right to pervert it and exploit it and to market it, stripping it
Mm.
down to a superficial concept.
Wow. Yeah.
So, when we see men and women, I don't separate the sexes, beautiful
Genders.
women,
Yeah.
they're sort of held aloft or away as a thing that maybe other people should be jealous of. So there's all that layering and layering of corrosion, right?
Mm.
Oh, this person follows a line of beauty that our society says is
The
acceptable.
standard. Yeah.
Right. Then there's, of course, shame heaped on that. There's jealousy heaped on that. And I think it's always that saying like, never trust someone who's good. You hear that saying? Don't trust someone who's good looking.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, who came up? What?
There's the other one that it's the funnier one. If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife.
Yeah,
Have you heard that? Well, it's like a joke, but it's not, at the same
yes,
time.
that's the mind. That's the
Yeah,
mind control. I mean, what is somebody's outside look have to do with who they are as a person?
right.
And I always said that's odd because then everybody in jail should be like supermodels.
Exactly.
But it's almost like so there's and if you talk to people who are attractive, um, they often have been experience some kind of aggression, some kind of
Yeah.
toxic jealousy, some kind of
Um,
twisted thing, like you want to make yourself not attractive, that kind of thing. There's a pressure not to be.
yeah, you want to dress down, you want to not uh, call attention to yourself.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Um, you
Personally, I
don't
did that my whole
want,
life. I did that. I never wanted to be seen.
yeah,
And the only reason I
you don't want to be
even knew
seen.
about it was because when I started connecting like full-time job with the Galactic Federation, then they started not only me, but Ivanilda too. They started terraforming us. And
Hmm.
then they came down and let us have it. And they're like, you need to start shining. We're like, no, 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 you need to. Like, oh no, I
Yeah.
don't want to. And then like Semyasi came forward and she says, you need to start. Like, she started picking clothes out for me. She started like, that's why I got hair like this now. I mean, it was like she was giving me a female swagger, which I never had my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, but then there was that weird shift of being like that's bad. Like,
Mm.
no, it was just weird, like the sensation of like,
Kind of like stay in your lane, like you
yeah,
shouldn't be. Yeah, right. Yep.
yeah,
I
it
know that's how I felt too doing start when I started my podcast. I didn't want to be seen. I
yeah,
at first would prefer to have I would have liked to have just had a picture up there the whole time and not and
yeah,
just be talking over it. Not of
yeah,
me, but of anything else.
yeah, yeah,
And it's hard to even look at yourself sometimes when you look back at your videos, or at least in my case, when I look back at myself on my videos, I just kind of cringe. It's the whole because you've got these standards that you want that you've been I've they're self-imposed. They're not even like it's other people, it's me. Like I think I should look this way and talk this way and I don't, you know, I don't like what I see.
right, right,
Even though
yeah,
deep inside, I know that I have a light that's shining very brightly and that
yes,
other
yeah,
people have told me they can see it. And I still want to keep it
yeah,
under wraps because
yeah,
it's just a natural kind of feeling that we've been kind of maybe brainwashed to
Oh,
think is right.
right. Well, and I think it's well, of course, when you're a child growing up, school, I think school maybe, because I didn't
School,
really
yeah.
get it much at home, but I think
No.
school, But then if
Mhm.
you think about people, because and I know a lot of people like you see people in celebrity and you don't want to be like that.
Yeah,
So there's like
exactly.
there's you have to separate in your mind that you don't have to be like that.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's never going to be you, but you almost feel like, oh, it's gonna, this is gonna happen to me or something. It's like there's that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be
Yes.
on camera because that's going to make me part of that group, and I don't want to be part of that group.
Right. I don't want to be associated with that. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Yep.
that's the taking of beauty and throwing it into entropy, where it's
Hmm.
stripped, as I just mentioned. Where everything that is beautiful is then condemned or perverted, and obviously that's why you don't want to be. No one would want to be part of that, unless you're that kind of leans towards that way. Um, so yeah, it was just so some of the other things I had brought up here that we can kind of mention is this idea of beauty and the attraction around beauty is one that must be objectified to a utilitarian agenda. So beauty can't be, as we had mentioned, in the negentropic state, in its pure state. So if something is beautiful, it needs to be exploited. Like if you have a beautiful coastline, you got to put buildings all around it. You
Ugh.
know, if you have a
Yeah.
beautiful man or woman, then it's going to be, used for something.
Hmm. Right.
There's always something like twisted. Everything gets twisted around these kinds of concepts.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right. It's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, I just,
No, I feel like it's very sad that that happens, but yes, in culture, in relationships, I feel like that's more when it seems to have occurred to me anyway. It wasn't so much my upbringing. It wasn't even school as much as people in school,
yeah,
like other kids or not the teachers, but the other kids that I went to school with,
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
And just little things that they would say or you would hear them say, just that kind of stuff. And to say like that I didn't care, and I didn't. I really just wanted to be who I was, and I didn't really let it affect me too much, but you still hear it. And you
oh
can't
yeah,
not be somewhat affected by it to an
yeah,
extent.
yeah,
You know what people's preferences are and
yeah.
what they aren't.
Yeah. And you think about you don't want you want to be gray. You want to be in a gray area. You don't want to stand out because you know from that childhood experience in school that if you stood out, you just want you were just trying to survive as a child. And the way you figured it out was okay, if I'm just quiet and I stay small, I'm safe. Because if I ever like they already found me and they're bullying me now, it's like
Mm,
so you have that fear of like, oh, the minute I step forward, I'm going to be attacked.
yeah. And then, and in my case, I just didn't feel like I belonged
Right.
with any of them
Oh,
anyway.
yeah.
So I just wanted to be off on my own because I just felt like my energy didn't match theirs. No, I
Right.
didn't think of it in terms of energy at the time, but
Right.
that's what it was. Our energies didn't match, and so I didn't feel like there was anybody that I could hang out with or talk to.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And that's that mind games that happen. And where does it happen? Children, because that's the best way to do it.
yep,
But it's just so I said too as well, not only has again the concept of utilitarianism has pervaded all aspects of our society. So how do I use this thing? And that's when we get into, and I
yep.
know Eke and I were still working on this, but we're gonna do a story of like love. All love,
Yeah,
parental love, romantic love. And again, you see that, and I hear it from people because coming forward here with the romances, that people are stepping forward and having, realizing most of their life that they've had an extraterrestrial man or woman that was a special person. A lot of people now are really tapping in. It's really coming forward. Um, and for the first time in their life, even though they may have a boyfriend or girlfriend or are married, they're now realizing that that's not love.
Hmm.
They're realizing that the person they're with, not that they don't love them, but
Yeah.
it's not
It
looking so rosy anymore.
yeah,
So,
it's
they're-
not as deep as
yes,
what it could be.
right.
It
And
doesn't
what,
have the layers and the levels that
yes,
you could have.
yes.
Yeah.
And as they spend more time with their real, basically, before they came in, their real boyfriend or girlfriend, they're now experiencing, often maybe for the first time, what real love is like.
Right.
It's going to be
Yes.
rock and roll for a lot of people. It is. I mean, like I never had that problem,
Mhm.
but for people who have had that, who are in that situation now, like, yeah, uh, I don't envy him, but that's for a different show. It's going to be, and yeah, it's just we've all been mind controlled to be shallow, to be vapid, to be fearful, all these things. To be living in states of shame and guilt and this and that and all the negative,
Yeah.
and and
To
that's
look at, like you said, like how can we use, is this useful to me? Is this
right,
relationship useful to me?
right,
Instead of like looking at it as a in a loving way, or
right.
as something that you share, or yeah, I mean there's something else that I was thinking, but it popped out of my head. Sorry.
Right. Well, it's all it is. Like I said, that we'll get into that on another show, but all about, basically relationships are all about use.
Hmm.
You hear people like they reach a certain age, like, oh, well, I better have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Oh, I better get married. And
Right.
you should settle. You have your standards are too high. You should settle.
Right.
Well, that's
And
not
as
love.
you
What? That's a
no.
loveless. Oh, love, you'll eventually love them. And it doesn't matter anyway, or whatever. It's like
And as you get older, they also start saying, well, what's going to happen if you lose your health? Don't you want somebody to take care of you? Like that's their job.
that's their job. Somebody, well, that's all the perversion. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have somebody around in case you get sick and then they can take care of you.
It's yeah. It's hideous. It's grotesque.
Yeah.
But what does that do? Because you're telling that probably, or kids are witnessing it, happens in childhood, and there you go. Um, so it's unfortunately that utilitarian. Also, the idea of the purchases, we'll get into that. I want to purchase, a good-looking man, or I want to purchase a good-looking woman, that kind of thing to show off.
Right. Arm candy.
Right. Well, we have our,
Hmm.
but but yeah, yeah, I guess it's grotesque. So we were just mentioning this, the idea of like not wanting to stand out, because when you stand out and shine your light, as experiences when you're growing up, you probably had a negative experience from that, which teaches you that, oh, well, it's safer to live in a stone, under a stone. So and this business, again, this can happen too, you hear stories about that. People who were attractive growing up, you know, they made themselves ugly, like that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and that didn't work either, so they're always in this turmoil of it's grotesque. It's psychological operations, not only from the culture and government across the globe, but also from the religious institutions across the globe. So all of this came together, like a hammer drop. So it's, again, this idea, don't stand out. You should be awkward, you know, and you should be ashamed, because if you're not awkward, like if you look cool, or if you are in your power, then that means other people, you're like kind of thumbing your nose at other people. You have a high, oh, you must have an ego. You must have a high sense of self. It's like,
Like that's a bad thing to have a high sense of self.
right. Well, it is. It is, yeah. I remember when people talk about like self-love. I mean, to me, someone who loves themselves is an asshole, right? Oh,
Right.
she loves her. When I was growing up,
Right.
you'd say, oh, he loves himself. She loves herself. Well, that was
Right.
an arrogant asshole. So you're not
Yeah,
supposed to love yourself, because if you loved yourself, then you'd be an arrogant asshole. Nobody wants.
exactly.
That's
Yep.
not.
That's
So
the programming. Yep.
oh, it's just, I mean, this soul death of the individual. And again, if you were accepting the beauty that we're talking about, if you love beauty, if you want to accept beauty, again, oh, this was all part of that, oh, that makes you shallow.
Hmm.
Yeah. And we were just saying this is reptilian, this is Draco reptilian, because they destroy and taint everything they touch. It's
Right.
the Draco, not all the reptilians. The Sikar, the one that influenced Earth, the ones that owned Earth, not just influenced, owned. And I'm going to say the Anunnaki as well. Um, yeah, even though the Pleiadians were our Pleiadians, they try to kind of come in a little bit here and there and seed things to help humanity throughout this long, long process of destruction of a race, by not only its own section. I mean, it's hard to even imagine that, the perversion and corruption of the Terran was, the overarching impetus was from other Terrans to take control over their own race. It's unheard of in any, really, I don't think it's, and to then
Yeah.
to sort of side with those negative Anunnaki and the negative Draco reptilians. Mind blowing, it's just out of such a perversion.
Yes.
But like I said, in the rituals, we think of like now that's all being exposed, but the deep state rituals, they're so ugly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Horrible.
just, yeah, it's a celebrate
Deplorable. Yeah.
grotesque ugliness,
Yeah.
beyond anyone's, for me.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, then I don't even want to say do your research. We're not saying ugliness because we're talking about people pretending to be other genders or whatever,
Oh
or
no.
dressing up as another gender. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what's going on right now with the whole entertainment industry and how people are finding out what they've really been up to and the different rituals and the satanic rituals that they've
Yeah.
been practicing and what they've been doing with children. So
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about,
Yeah,
just to
I
be
went down.
clear.
Yeah, I'm right. When I'm talking about rituals, I went down. They took me down. I know this is probably why they did this, but I had my Pleiadians took me down, and they shielded me. And that was a deep dive that night. I mean, I was going from one hellhole to another. They were like this.
Mm,
Oh my God. So one of the places they took me down into was in Italy, and it was an old building. I could smell the wood and everything. It was almost a bilocation,
mm,
and it was dark, and they had red curtains, and then they came to like a stone altar area deep inside this building underground, and there were people wearing long red and black robes, and they're all men, and there was candles and all that kind of stuff, and a woman gave birth. A naked woman was there, and she had just given birth, and they took the baby and sacrificed it. Blood ritual.
yeah,
And they also killed the woman. That's what I'm talking about. These are the
yeah,
people that people are looking up to. These are the people are trusting. It's like,
yeah.
this is
They're-
yeah,
These are the elites. These
yeah,
are the people that, when we say the elites, that's what we're referring to.
yeah.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
what they're
your,
doing, and
this was,
this is how this world is working right now.
and this was, these were religious figures I saw.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there you go. That's yeah. Anyway, that was a deep dive that night. And again, what Ika has seen, he talked about a few things he's seen when he was down in the dumps. That's what gave him PTSD. It's it's
Yeah.
bad. It's bad. Yeah.
Right.
And so people need to see ugly. And I mean, that's
That's
what,
what's being shown right now.
yeah,
They're like turning over the rocks and showing everybody the
yeah,
ugly stuff
yeah,
that's been hidden all this time under the rocks.
yeah. And
Yeah,
you see
literally.
the tentacles of all this stuff entering into our society as what we're
Yeah.
talking about now.
Yeah.
Because the number one thing the Draco do is destroy everything that's beautiful. They destroy a planet. They destroy all
Yes.
beauty.
Hmm.
And it's this as I said,
They
it's
want it, but they want to destroy it. They
they
want
want
to
to,
own it,
yeah,
but they want to destroy it. It makes no
they
sense, but
consume
that's
it.
what they do.
As I said,
Yeah.
so I said they consume it.
Yes.
So
That's
if you
it.
think about that
That's
in
it.
these relationships, let's just say that are, as the Irish have a saying about this, it's always like to like. But no, what you have in this case is are like not like to like in many of these relationships. And it's about consuming another soul.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to realize that in their unfortunate Terran relationships, those who chose to go with a Terran, sadly. Not all, like I said, I don't, there's how many billion people on this planet? Not everybody. Like,
8 billion, I think.
right.
Yeah.
But I think there's a general wave of people who have unfortunately found themselves in positions of vampire-like relationships,
Yeah.
or certainly unfulfilling ones, which
Right.
is a vampire relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your energy is being
exactly.
completely,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
taken
constantly
from you.
being, yeah. So
Yes.
there's a consuming, a consumption, a sucking.
You don't understand why you're always tired.
Right.
Why are you always tired? And you're getting enough sleep or whatever. You're just like, why am I tired?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yep. Yep. I know those.
Hmm.
Because we can say, maybe it'd be great to have you and Will on as well. When we're talking about our relationships,
Yeah.
it's entirely
Will
different.
said yes.
Feeds
Yeah.
it feeds you. Well, it feeds you. When Ika's around me,
Hmm.
he terraformed my whole body. He terraformed who I am.
Mm.
He found me, basically.
Hmm.
And when he's around, it's like I am in my power.
Yeah.
It's
It gives you energy. It actually gives you energy instead of taking it.
and
Yeah.
I can feed him, feel him fueling off of me.
Mm.
Because when we're together doing air, and you see with Will too, right, when he's with you, that is his time to recharge.
Yes. Right. It's a symbiotic thing where,
Yes, it's
yeah.
that they showed me the infinity symbol.
Yes. It's
And
like,
that's what's and it has to be
yeah.
and it happens constantly.
Yeah.
It isn't like he's
It's
taking, now I'm taking,
it's
now
like
he's
an
coming.
over unity
Yep, it's
device.
over unity. It was over unity.
Perpetual motion. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
Mhm.
relationship,
Mhm.
and we never fight. We have our little it's it's not like that ownership type thing. He
Yeah.
likes to think he's like,
It's
okay,
not a
he
fight.
jokes
It's
around
not
things.
an ego. It's not an ego battle. Yeah.
So he pretends that sometimes. Like he'll play with that. Like,
Yeah.
like I gotta tie you up or put a leash around you or whatever. That kind of stuff. He always like, there's that. He always plays with it. But because I can feel what he feels. So it's not like, he's just playing. So, but it's his what
Mm.
he's trying to show is that his like we are each other. Like we
Yeah.
are each other. It's like I can't imagine anybody else but him, and he can't imagine anybody else but me.
Hmm.
Like on many layers. And that's what happens in extraterrestrial relationships.
Yeah.
So, I think people are as they're having their extraterrestrial relationships, they're starting to look at their Terran relationships and they're like, "Ooh, this
Yeah.
is no bueno here. This is no bueno." They're like, "Ugh, this is like, ugh." But that's it. I mean, the Terra, in the whole, and I think it's even permeated into indigenous culture as well. I don't think they're exempt from this something going down there.
Hmm.
But what happened was that what it felt like to me, what I was given this morning was this concept that um, the overarching energy eats and transforms. So it basically eats beauty and then transforms it into something grotesque. It
Mm.
takes what is pure and transforms it all into the grotesque.
Ah, right.
So,
So negentropy into entropy instead of the other way
yeah,
around.
other way
Yeah.
around. Correct, correct.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they're doing.
Hmm.
So I said, it's Terra is a facilitator of the grotesque, which is what we're fighting because it's like psychological war. It's a
Yeah.
psychological frequency energy war
Yes.
manifesting. into the 4D. So a lot of people, as I had mentioned from some of my experiences, I know, Linda, if you've had similar ones, but the idea of beauty has become a trigger. Like you can't, like if you go, if I go, and I go on Facebook and I throw it out there sometimes, but every time I talk about beauty, it's a trigger. Everybody goes crazy. You know, who do you think you are? It's like, what? I'm talking about beauty, beauty, you know, like,
Yeah.
and beauty as a sense of negentropy, beauty as a thing of soul feeding. Beauty feeds the soul. And people go crazy. You know, I find more men than women. I don't,
Mm.
it's more of them, it's more from the perversion of the masculine.
Yeah.
And it's usually, you know, I think there's been this strange feeding into the male, some men, you know, obviously, of, you know, how do I get a hot babe? You know,
Yes.
it's
How do I
that,
acquire one?
how do I, right, right, you know,
I'd like to acquire a hot babe,
yes,
please.
yes. You know, like it's like what? It's that we go back to the utilitarianism,
Yeah.
you know, and then you get some
Yeah.
cultures where that's actually done. Women are chattel that are sold, you know, a 13-year-old girl to a 50-year-old man.
And yeah, it happens everywhere, not just in
Yeah.
the third world countries. It
Oh
happens
no,
everywhere.
it's everywhere.
Black market underground, and we're
Absolutely.
finding that out now. So that's where if you want to know where all your missing children are, that's where they are.
Oh yeah,
That's where they
absolutely.
are. They're
Yeah,
under your feet right now. And I don't mean in graves, well, some of them, but
yeah,
they're underground in
yeah,
these underground facilities
yeah.
being harvested,
Sure.
literally.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. Yeah. It seems to be a super trigger. Yeah. Like,
Hmm.
yeah. And
And
all of
because
it,
most people are like, what are we supposed to do about this? You know, like call the FBI, call our local law enforcement, and then they don't do anything. And
well, they're
yeah,
part of it.
yes, because they're part of it, and
They're
people
part
are
of it.
starting to find that out now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now what do we do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's the question now, is now what do we do about all of this?
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
And that's exactly what we're talking about. Innocence, a child, purity. That's why they probably want them.
Yeah,
Innocence, purity,
unfortunately.
beauty for perversion.
Yeah.
And you imbibe, you eat that. They're taking. See these people hate themselves so much. They're so vile, they're so sadistic, they're so psychopathic. That is their energy field. They feed off of innocence.
Hmm.
It's how they find energy.
Yep.
And that's what's gone on here, you know. And it's tragic. Like I said, you know, if you see something beautiful, attack it. You know, make it small, make it, I mean, you'll see that, you know, some people have,
Uh-huh.
there's been cases of women that have been mutilated, acid thrown on
Mhm.
their face, you know. Yeah.
And also blamed and shamed,
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
because anybody who goes after someone who's a high profile is always blamed and shamed. Just like not to bring up P. Diddy, but that whole thing, the
Yeah.
woman that sued him for millions of dollars
Yeah.
and actually settled out of court, and then later everybody called her a gold digger. Everybody
Right.
said, how dare she attack him? She just wanted his money. And then, of course, later it took a video of him literally beating the shit out of her to
Oh,
show people that that's why she was given that money,
uh,
because the video surfaced of why he was trying to pay her off,
they're off.
because
Yeah.
he didn't want that video to come to life, to come to surface, which now is why nobody, you know, he has no credibility anymore
Yeah.
after
But
everyone saw that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's what your average Terran has been brainwashed to see everybody as.
That's what it has to take. Yeah, it's really sad that they have to have visceral proof of somebody being literally, beaten
Yeah.
to near death in order for them to realize that this person is an evil person.
Right.
They couldn't just see it, they couldn't just feel it or sense it about that person, because that person is so popular or so charming and knows how to charm their way out of things, because that's what they've
Sure.
done all their life.
You also have a large percentage of Terrans. that Zoe and I talked about that have a reptilian DNA. And there's a large percentage of Terrans who are that. So they
Yeah.
would see that and enjoy it. That's
Oh,
this. See, there are many
wow.
Terrans who are within, and so when I read energies from people, and Zoe and I did, we talked about this. There are a lot of Terrans, male and female, who have a darkness inside themselves.
Mm.
It is from the draconian gene pool.
Ah,
And there is a sadistic desire
that's what I was going to say.
in these beings. So someone like Diddy, they look up to, they admire, they want to be like that.
Because it's a control thing too. Like, look how in control he
Feels
is,
good to them.
or
They are
something.
just
Yeah.
perverted inside. It
Wow.
feels good to them. And it's
That's
in their bodies, it's a draconian gene.
wow.
It's there. And I talked to a few other people that are walk-ins and starseeds, and they're like, I sense that too. I'm like, okay. So like it's not just they're like, no, I sense that. I want to bring this
Yeah.
out there for our viewers who are
Yeah.
probably largely shamanic, indigenous, starseed, angelic
Yeah.
energy frequencies. You've probably felt this, so it's not you. It's not you've
Yeah.
seen, and that's why they always say that. A lot of people tend to like hate us because they know that we see them.
Ah.
Because they're basically, you know how Draco can shapeshift?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Terrans are basically shapeshifted. The persona that they show on the surface is not who they are inside.
Mm.
What is inside is dark.
Mm-hmm.
So they pretend on the surface, but how long can you hold that? You know, and those are the kind of people that tend to snap. They tend to be a little,
Yeah.
but you feel them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the thing is, they've been protected because what we do is second guess ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're brainwashed all the time about this. Remember, like, oh, don't judge people. You're not judging, you're observing. There's a difference. You're
Right.
observing safety, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you're in the middle of an Indian forest and a tiger comes out, you're not judging the tiger. You're going to say, well, I better move. You're not judging
Right.
the tiger. You just realize you see and you observe right away, this tiger will probably take me out.
Right. Well, it's like they say use your own judgment, right?
That's
That
right.
it's that kind of judgment, right?
It's
It's like
that. Yeah.
it's not scrutiny like you're looking at somebody and going,
No.
"Oh, we're picking them apart because we don't like them." It's no,
Yeah.
it's a kind of an intuition or a sense of, okay, I need to know this to be
Yeah.
safe.
That's right.
Yeah,
And your body is telling you because you're reading their aura. But and this is
right.
why I always say there's so much danger in the truth community, not judging the truth community, but being very careful. This concept that, oh, everybody's on their journey, let them be on their journey. There's no such thing as evil. It's like you're gonna get
Hmm.
in big, that's basically putting somebody in danger.
Yeah,
Thinking that, oh well, I shouldn't judge. You're not judging, you're observing your body, and the extraterrestrial ego's going like, yeah, the
yeah.
extraterrestrials have warned humanity. Look, use your intuition. You don't have to love someone who is out to injure you. You do not
Yes.
love your enemy. You have
Mhm.
boundaries for your enemy.
Right.
And even Thorhan said that. All of the
Mm.
ETs say that. And we have
Yes.
to be so careful of a lot of what's being fed to us about
Yeah.
this love culture. Like, and yeah, there is that, but use your intuition. There are beings on Earth that are dangerous. And I'm not gonna say good or bad. Not, we don't because that's the big thing now. Everybody doesn't want to say. I don't want to say it's bad. Well, there are beings on this planet, and I know a lot of our viewers have probably had experience with them, and I mean Terrans, who have a dark genetic material in them that makes them very dangerous. I don't know if they can be repaired. That's beyond my abilities, but observe and keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Draco. And they're shape shifting in front of you by pretending to be, and they know what they're what they call like the sociopaths. They're real
Yeah.
people. They're real. That's Draco genetics.
Yep.
And you're not going to love them into healing. They're not genetically capable. That's going to take some kind of technology that they probably have upstairs to fix. I don't know. It's just not going to happen.
Yes.
So be mindful. People have to be careful of that. It's just, yeah, we probably should do, two series on this. We're running up,
Yeah.
we're running
We're
past our
running out of
mission.
time.
We always want to respect people's time. It's so difficult, and of course,
Yeah, we could do a two-part.
we probably
Sure.
could do a two-part, because there's some other aspects of this I'd like to bring out on, how it gets manifested and so I end
Yeah.
up doing all this morning. And Hika was talking about technology, consciousness and technology this morning. So that could be
Mm,
we can do a short on that.
nice.
I don't know where he came up, why he just started. So every morning we talk, I know you and Will. Not in
Yeah.
the morning because you didn't have your coffee.
After I have my coffee, then he'll talk to me. He knows better.
Yeah, because it's Ika's several hours behind me on Earth. So that's really quiet morning time. He's got a crazy schedule. He's all over the place.
Mm,
So he doesn't even know his own schedule. But usually he'll have some free time in the morning where we'll just hang out together and and he'll talk. And for some reason this morning he gave me some tech, which he never does.
yeah. Cool.
So yeah, I'll do that as a short.
Yeah.
So cool. And yeah, I think we can let people think about that. Again, this is just for you to think about and to process using your own sensory experiences, your own intuition, stuff you've experienced, stuff you hear, run it through yourself using your own discernment, not what someone told you. That's so dangerous. There's so much of that out there now. Your own discernment.
Yep.
That's I guess that's probably us getting off our soapbox. Speaking of soapboxes,
Yeah.
getting off our soapbox, but yeah, yeah. So I want to thank Will for joining us today.
He says it's his pleasure. He enjoyed it.
Do you owe him one of those hot chocolates that you make?
Yes. Yes. He likes that and my spaghetti.
Yeah.
He likes my spaghetti.
Yeah.
It's my own secret. I can't tell you.
I know.
Oh, he knows.
He watches you do it, so it's not a
He
secret.
watches me do it. Yeah. So he knows, but
He
no.
knows. Oh my God. Yeah, he's a foodie. I like that.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So that's good. All right. Well, Will and Linda, have a beautiful evening. All of our
Thank
wonderful viewers and family members, our viewers are our family members, and again, whenever you're going to watch this, it's going to be an evening now for us leaving, but have a beautiful day or evening wherever you are in the world, and blessings and abundance to everyone. See.
Hi, everyone.